All right, Jeremy Gall, welcome to the morning show. Good morning, hospitality. How are we doing, my friend?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me. Well, it's good to see you. I think the last time I saw you was in Mexico City last year, so
Yeah,
fun to reconnect.
Mexico City, guest eval last September. Fun time, great conference. My first guest eval, totally worth going to for anyone listening. But you guys have some exciting news today, as we saw yesterday on March 3rd, that you guys have raised a strategic round from a private equity group. And so I want to get the scoop. I want to get to know your thinking behind this announcement, this change. I know you guys have raised venture capital in the past from a seed round, an A round, a B round, but not really fully announced publicly in terms of like press and all the fun interviews that come with it. But yeah, walk me behind the strategic thinking of why this private equity group, why this round, what's next for the company, what can we look forward to, all the questions.
Yeah, sounds great. Thanks. Yeah, it's big news for Breezeway. I think it helps set up the next chapter of growth for the business. The business has been growing nicely. We've taken professional investors and like institutional capital several times before in the history of the company. And we felt like this was another great opportunity to validate, our position in the market, the growth that we've had, and I think very importantly, the growth and the value we can drive in the market that's in front of us. So it was the right time to think about another strategic partner, like a partner who can help sort of has a pattern recognition, has perspective of other companies similarly situated that have grown, from where we are today to, bigger, more exciting, and useful companies in the space.
For sure. And one of the questions I wanted to ask to maybe just get right into the meat of some of the episode or some of the topics is that we've seen private equity come into the space, specifically short-term rentals, vacation rentals, from both the operator side and the technology side. And not all of them have played out successfully. I would say a majority haven't played out successfully. So what makes this investment with Resurgens Technology Partners different? Why did you guys decide this route versus other venture capital or capital routes that you guys have done before? Yeah, and kind of give me maybe your take on the overall landscape with private equity as it's coming to the industry.
Yeah, I think it depends on the company, right? I think some of the experiences you're probably alluding to, those companies are at different stage of growth, a little bit more mature than Breezeway was at that time, than Breezeway is today. And I think it depends on the investor and kind of the space, right? And I think what we have going for us is this is a pretty unique. Breezeway is in a unique position in the market. We've been a market leading solution in this operation space. I think it's fair to say for quite some time, with a great product that's really valuable to clients, but it's still like at a lower level of sort of ARR and overall maturity with a lot of room to grow. And I think that's where, private equity is it's a really big category, that covers like private capital from, some of the smaller funds that would typically be doing growth equity all the way up to the really giant funds where, they don't get much bigger. There's no place to go from there, but to go public. And so it's all about, I think, smartly capitalizing the business for where you are and for the growth and sort of maturity of the business. And I'm thankful that throughout the journey so far for Breezeway, we've been pretty smart about that. And I think that has manifested itself in that's part of why we've been able to deliver great products to the market. I think have like, you know, leading customer support, be really responsive to what our client needs are in the market. And I think, that just comes from being really pragmatic and smart about how you raise capital, who you raise it from, and making sure that the fund and the stage really matches. And that's where it can really go sideways, I think, where you can find when you have that mismatch, then all of a sudden you just haven't set the business up for success. And I think it becomes easy to paint with a pretty broad brush that like PE is bad. But that PE is trying to, they're trying to deliver shareholder value. And if there's a mismatch, It just gets really hard to do.
Yeah, which a lot of the listeners, I'm sure, are probably like, Will paints the picture as PE is bad on GMH a couple times or a few times. But in the certain cases, I think the way you said it is smart strategic capital, matching a fund with the business rather than matching or trying to match the fund with the business, but going something that's either too big or too small or misaligned in terms of the partners. So yeah, I think that's a very good perspective. And just to be clear, I want to clarify maybe with the listeners too. I was talking to you about this behind the scenes before we hit record, but this is a investment, right? This isn't an acquisition. We're still going to expect to see you at the helm as CEO. Like, we're not going to see Jeremy dipping out anytime soon, are we?
No, this is an investment.
Okay.
This is an investment and, a tight partnership with our new largest investor. But we've had investors in the past, right? This is not totally new. I think what's new is we usually don't end up announcing it.
Yeah.
But I think we're pretty proud of what we've been able to accomplish so far. And in the software climate today, I think it's also, it's notable to close another strategic round and bringing capital to business and help people understand that we are really investing in the growth of this business on behalf of our clients so that we can deliver more value. And no, I'm not going anywhere. I think there's a lot of unfinished business and a lot in front of this company that I'm excited to be a part of.
Sweet. Just making sure. I was getting a little worried
Well,
when I first.
would you miss me? Would you
Of
miss me?
course, of course. He's like, who else am I going to interview now? I'm gonna have to. I'll grab Corinne. How about that? I'd be
Yeah,
interviewing
exactly.
Corinne. But no, that's great. And speaking of kind of what's moving forward with the company, I do want to talk about that because there's quite, like you said, quite an interesting landscape within the technology space of our sector. Not only from that, but obviously with AI, and again, I'm probably more less optimistic on AI than most people, but with your guys' statement that you guys put out on the Breezeway site to announce this investment, AI is mentioned, product updates are mentioned, a couple other things are mentioned. So you guys sit at a great place as the lead. Like you said, I don't think I've heard many complaints or issues with customers from Breezeway. I've heard glowing reviews at every conference, mentioned naturally on podcasts. Like, it's pretty much the top tier system. So with that, what is next? How do you level up something that's already A, pretty damn good, but B, the landscape of AI? Jamie Lane, I'm kind of asking you two questions at once, so forgive me for kind of breaking a
Okay.
podcaster rule. But Jamie Lane asked the question in our private chat around, AI native apps are moving more into the operational layer of kind of like where Breezeway sits. How is Breezeway going to maintain its lead and innovation in a world that is changing fast and where PMSs are more and more building their own AI automations directly into their core product? So I'm curious how you guys view that with the updates and changes you guys are going to make with Breezeway.
Yeah, Jamie Lane. I love the thanks for the softball. The
Yeah,
I think first, yeah, couple questions built in there, couple comments in response.
for sure.
I think number one, we're at a really interesting time for the vacation rental ecosystem. I think on the one hand, like you said, lots of people are building more tools. At the same time, we're already at like peak complexity of vendor tools and technology, many tripping over themselves and with overlapping features. And should I be getting this from this vendor? Should I be getting it here?
Yeah.
How do these things stitch together? I think it's really complicated for partners. So I think there's an opportunity to really separate there. And I think what we'll end up seeing is some true separation in the marketplace between the front office and the back office, and a couple of core platforms that really help you get all this work done and help you do it effectively. And I'm pretty convinced that at least two of those core platforms are going to be PMS reservation centric and operations sort of like work and service centric systems.
Mhm.
I think the problem is, maybe they're called AI native solutions now. Maybe 6 months ago they were called guest experience solutions. I don't really know.
They
but
were.
but like the functionality there, the value there is pretty thin, and so there's a reach to try and do more. But the problem is you can't just automate it all away. You have to have the automation, and then you have to have all the depth behind it, that when the automation can't get the edge case, you can go in and you can actually do it. And so I feel pretty good about the position that we're in, that we can deliver more of that value faster than others can, because of the work we've done on property data, on rules-based automation that already exists, on like how you actually run your business and your SOP, and then how operations already ties to ancillary things like messaging and guide and locks and a whole host of other things. We won't get into a product, product showcase here. And I think then it just, yeah, I'm super excited about how I think AI levels of automation, that technology, I'm optimistic about it in the right application. And very complicated operational workflows that have multiple variables and are always changing and can be really hard for people to wrap their heads around, or you have to have a person totally dedicated to just watching it, is a ripe, very fertile area where it's just a natural extension of what Breezeway has been doing for a really long time. Like the value we generate is automating and controlling a lot of this work, and AI will just be another tool in the toolbox to help us do that even more effectively. And yes, we mentioned it in this release because it has been a major focus of the company for the last 18 months and will continue to be so. And I think we're in a great position to take advantage of it.
Yeah, I would say I agree with the statement that when used for the specific right tool, AI could be great. And I think, as I look at, I've known Breezeway. So for any new listeners that are listening to this or watching, I've known of Breezeway and I've worked with Breezeway many, many years. And I've gotten to use Breezeway as a product, as a property manager. I've seen people that are way big, like way, way bigger operators than I was. And they've all used it. And I think the use case that works really well with AI and Breezeway is that you mentioned briefly on the work of data that you guys have done. And I think the data piece is truly the most crucial part in order for proper application of AI. Because without right or clean data, which we can talk about, you and I think geeked out even a little bit in Mexico around, you know, data inputs from each different PMS and OTA and how it all pulls in incorrectly, or we're all saying the same thing in different ways. So it makes the data really hard to clean up and to standardize. But with what Breezeway has in terms of the amount of data work that you guys have done, it makes AI actually beneficial rather than extra layers and kind of task creation, I would say. Would you agree in that terms, like in terms of like just the way that the industry is set up with data and that AI, I don't know, I'm kind of asking more a broader question, but yeah.
Yeah, I think that's right. I think it's also about context, though.
Mhm.
And I think that's an advantage that we just have Breezeway holds a tremendous amount of context about how this work needs to be done and how this work is connected to the rest of your like operational workflow, both as an industry and then for our clients, like on a very granular level, like the actual data of like what makes their business run and what makes their operations run. And I've been saying this for a while, and maybe just more people are picking it up, but like, operations is it's not just the tasks. It's not just
Yeah.
like getting a task done. Like it's how you communicate about that. Like, so messaging and the guest experience in my mind is like that is wrapped under like operations, in quotes, because that's like the business that we're in. And I think the right application of AI will help people deliver their unique brand of hospitality much more effectively. It'll help them differentiate their business. And we see that with the clients that we already work with.
Yeah. Kind of a follow-up question to some of the roadmap to be developed and kind of what's next for Breezeway with this investment. What problem in hospitality operations do you think is still massively undersolved?
Ooh. I think that I think I think it's twofold. I think it's still a little too challenging to execute on the baseline, like just the baseline hospitality work that people really want to deliver on like every time. I think there's still some challenges there that Breezeway can solve to smooth that out. And I think the real big opportunity is once you've got the baseline established so well, how do you step up to be even more personalized or take into account we talk to clients about this a lot as far as like future thinking about how we think about the product. Like imagine you're able to execute differently on folks who are last minute bookers versus the people who booked last year.
Yeah.
Or depending on their ADR and what you know about them and how you want to deliver to them. Not just like guest supplies and welcome baskets, but the whole experience. And I think we're moving in a direction of much more personalization and much more efficiency. Like there's a lot more margin that can be gained from these businesses, a lot more profitability by driving more efficiency into the market.
I love that. Another maybe two-parter, but I'll try to keep it one. How do you see the hospitality tech landscape or the tech stack evolving over the next 2 years? I'll say a lot of people like to go 5, but 2 years with AI, with capital coming into the industry. I definitely would love your take because you guys do integrate with a lot of partners. You have a lot of that, not only conversation with clients, but other tech vendors. So yeah, kind of interested on your take.
I think there's going to be more consolidation. I think we will see over the next 2 years even more PMS consolidation and even more like tech and point solution consolidation within the market. I think we'll see the number of vendors drop, a little bit more clarity into that ecosystem. And I think it's going to be driven by the market and by continued professionalization. There's, I think you mentioned PE on both fronts, right?
Yeah.
We're not done seeing the level of investment that we'll see on the operator side as well. So that consolidation on the operator side will continue to help push consolidation on the vendor side. I think you'll see more winners emerge as the entire market professionalizes.
For sure. And this is a question I've asked you, I think in the past when we first interviewed together, probably during COVID 2020. So it's more of a founder's perspective. I want to get your take. So you've gone through building FlipKey, which sold to TripAdvisor. So I want to know what lessons from that experience have shaped how you built Breezeway up to this point.
Well, you mentioned one thing about like whether I'll be around and what this investment means, and we talked about a strategic investment and partnership. I think one of the big lessons that we learned at FlipKey was continuing to invest in the business. We made an early decision to do a strategic investment with TripAdvisor. We took in some capital to operate the business, and we developed a mindset. TJ might disagree with me, but I think history probably indicates this is true. We developed a mindset that like that's the only capital that we had to work with. And we should have been a little more aggressive and raised more capital at FlipKey to capture more of that opportunity and really pushed for it. So I think one of the big lessons was continuing to look at the business and try and match the capital plan with the actual operation of the business. And I think at Breezeway, we've done that a bit more effectively, probably than we did at FlipKey. I'd say another lesson, since you're giving me the mic, we repeated didn't change, but a lesson that some lessons you learn from and you change, and some you double down because it's effective.
Yeah.
And I think one of the things we really learned at FlipKey was that you really had to have a love and appreciation for the industry and for these clients. And that if you demonstrated care and attention to clients, they would build you up. They would provide you with the feedback you needed. They would be with you on this journey, and be supportive back to the business. I think this is an industry that very much appreciates their tech partners and their vendors. They want to have a close relationship with them, but they want to feel that it's mutual and it's both ways. And I think we have embraced that at Breezeway, and that's not going to change, because I think that's another lesson that we learned very effectively at FlipKey that we've brought to bear at Breezeway.
I love it. So one thing to change, one thing to double down on. I think it's a good take, a good answer there. So just want to say congrats. I think this is exciting. We always say on the show, or at least Michael Golden always says, whenever capital is in the industry, it's good to see money coming in. Like we're happy to see it. We're excited for the innovation and the changes. As we stated, Breezeway has led the way in a lot of ways and in many years. And so just kind of interested to see how you guys keep that head, that first place mindset.
Yeah, we'll keep the edge. I think it's also good. It's worth noting, that's a new investor in it's a new investor in the space, right? True. And somebody that hasn't made an investment in vacation rentals before, and is net new. And I think that was a really important thing to us as well. I think there's a lot of work for us to do and a lot of opportunity. So we wanted to remain as an independent company, as our own company, in the ecosystem, because we felt like at this stage that gives us the best opportunity to drive value to clients. So I think people will come to appreciate that and are going to be excited for what they see out of Breezeway over the next year.
I love it. No pressure, but we're watching. So we'll be tuning in.
Pressure's a privilege, as one of my good friends, Matt Barr, says. So I appreciate it.
Hey, I'm going to use that in the future. Pressure is a privilege. Well, thank you so much, Jeremy, for sitting down with me for these quick 20 minutes. And I appreciate your time. For the listeners, make sure to check out all the things in the show notes, from the announcement from Breezeway, what to expect, and obviously keep tuning into GMH as we cover more and more stories like this.
Awesome. Thank you, Will. Have a great day.
You as well.